Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about the 7 stanchions of separation for Dungeons and Dragons. So this is coming directly out of Professor Dungeonmasters over on Dungeon Craft's amazing why D&D 5e is an 800-pound gorilla, why D&D 5e is king, why it's the 800-pound gorilla of the industry. And this is a massively important concept for me, because basically this is a much more credible, much more successful D&D commentator just saying exactly what I've been saying saying this, starting down the path to arrive where I am, right? It's a more credible, more powerful, more successful channel. It's seeing that creator walk the same path I've been walking for 2 years. He's not where I am yet, but he's heading there, right? That's my opinion, okay? And what he's saying is, and he did this video, and he reached out to, like, his D&D wonks and was like, and they all asked themselves, they're like, why is 5e utterly destroying every copy game, every D&D then game out there? They don't use those terms, but that's what they're talking about. They're like, why is OSE just virtually stomped into the ground by D&D 5e constantly, right? Why can Pathfinder not catch up? Why do our games that should matter not matter, right? Like, and I'm like, yeah, you're getting it. You're coming along. I see you walking the path. I'm 5 miles ahead of you, but I see you're going to catch up, right? Like, so like, and I and if it sounds like I'm a little, stirred up about it, yeah, because, Russell Brand, he's the new British Joe Rogan, if you don't know it, right? And he loves to say this. It's not even his words, but he's the important person saying it now, and he's right. Like, it's such a thing, right? Like, what's the difference between conspiracy theory and, in fact, 6 months, right? Now, this isn't time. This is, Scott Garibay said this a long time ago and has been saying it ad nauseum for 2 years, right? But now, credible, high sub, high credibility, high sub channels are starting to say exactly what I've been saying, and they're behind me, but they're gonna get where I am, right? Like, I'm convinced, and that's why I'm excited about this, right? So so this video, which is linked below, is so important. I'm like branding it on my brain, right? Like, and I'm doing that with a mnemonic. I use mnemonics so that I can squeeze a bunch of language into the shortest ability to present it to people. And I do this for you. I don't want to repeat myself in videos. I want to be able to get to my point really, really fast, right? Which is hard. It's hard, especially when you talk about complicated things, right? So I'm just going to give you this mnemonic today, and I want to talk about the 7 stanchions, right? All right. So these are all from his video, but I split 2 of them out, all right? So, and it's just me, like, burning this into my brain skull so that I never forget, because it's so important, right? And basically what Professor Dungeon Master from Dungeon Craft is saying is, he's saying, I know y'all think 5e is the same. It's not. It is a different beast, right? Like, it is just functionally different. It's not like your game. I know you like to say it's like D&D. It is not. It is not. It is not, right? And these are like 7 entire columns of evidence saying your copy game doesn't matter, your D&D then doesn't matter, right? Like, all right, so let's get there. All right. So I have 3 words that help me to remember 7 words, and each one of these is literally a body of knowledge that says D&D copy does not matter, D&D then does not matter. All that matters is D&D now, right? All right, that's my humble opinion. Here we go. All right, so Zeitrule, Zeitgeist, and rules, right? And then Picotech, right? So Picotech. So Picotech is IP, ecosystem, technology, right? And last one is CritTube. And this one is where I split with Professor Dungeon Master. He's like, Critical Role and YouTube, they're the same thing. No, they are not. They are not even remotely the same thing, right? They are very distinctly different, right? So Critical Role and YouTube, right? So what we're saying is, he's saying, if you play D&D 5e, you have a zeitgeist behind you. You have rules behind you. If you have an IP behind you, you have an ecosystem behind you, you have technology behind you, you have Critical Role behind you, you have YouTube behind you, and any competitor that steps to Dungeons and Dragons, right? They may have some of these pillars they don't have any equivalent to, right? Like they just like it. Here's a good one, right? OSC does not have a Matthew Mercer. It doesn't have an analog. It doesn't have a lesser version of it. It doesn't have anything like him. Nothing, right? Like that pillar is a 0 for OSE and for a whole bunch of copy games, right? And so, and then there are other ones where like YouTube, yeah, OSC's got tons of YouTubers out there talking about it. Maybe 100th of people that are talking about D&D, but it has that stanchion, right? But it is light years away from the quality, scale, numbers, any of it that and so basically what Professor Dungeon Master has done is taken 2 years of my work and boiled it down to 7 words, and each one of those words represents a column of evidence that D&D then no longer matters and is done, right? And that D&D copy no longer matters and is done, right? And it's a chicken with its head cut off. That yes, D&D then still have some people hobbling around playing it. D&D copy still has some people hobbling around playing it. They're a chicken with their head cut off, right? They're dead. They just don't know it, right? And people are like, no, Scott, this isn't true. And I'm like, there is a drumbeat of evidence that is happening. Paizo just took their official product and was like, yeah, we're just like every other scrub indie out there. We're just going to make us all 5e because we don't matter and we're not a real company. Blah, right? That's where we're at. It's where we're at, right? And, of course, for me, I've seen this for 2 years, right? And I've been squawking about it for 2 years, but I also understand, right? I have an unusual delivery system for the things I'm saying, but for me, this is hugely important because I'm, and then Teos Abadia with Sean Merwin. Recently, I was like, I don't know who that other person is. I know who he is now, right? Because one of the things is he went on and did an actual YouTube, not a silly podcast shoved off in some corner of the internet, but an actual YouTube with Sly Flourish, and I got to see his face. And I've heard a lot, and he's a smart guy, Sean Merwin. So, like, I had harsh words for him a week ago. Now I'm just embracing him. So, Sean Merwin and Teos Abadia, just did a podcast saying, hey, it really looks like the social interaction pillar doesn't exist, right? Like, and, I know I'm standing alone in the field and nobody's listening to me, 1,800 people in the world listen to me, which is virtually nothing, right? But I am getting very excited that very credible, that high credibility D&D commentator channels are saying what I have been saying for a while, better, more concisely, and with more impact, right? And that's okay. That's okay. I wish my stuff was more effective and more impacting, right? But I have a time constraint, right? I can only spend so much time on this, right? And I really don't even feel like I need to apologize for it because I do a ton of content, right? Like a ton, right? And I mean, I'm coming up on like 2,800 videos, right? So, but it is fascinating to me to see high credibility, high sub channels saying exactly what I've been saying for 2 years, and they're just behind. They're all gonna land exactly where I've already landed, right? Because I have been where they're going. That's my take. I'll hear you out. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing. Have a wonderful millennium.